This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast about the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morrison. This week we're talking about one of the greatest games in Bates athletics history, as women's basketball stormed back from 18 points down to beat Smith in overtime in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Plus, men's lacrosse is 6-0 to start the season. It's time to preview the Bates softball season, and we introduce you to the first Paralympian in Bates College history. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The Bates women's basketball team found themselves trailing by as many as 18 points, 16 points at halftime, and 12 points after the third quarter in their second round NCAA tournament game against national powerhouse Smith, a team that had made the Final Four each of the last 3 seasons. But the Bobcats refused to back down, rallying to force overtime, eventually prevailing 74-70 in OT over the Bears in one of the greatest sporting events in Bates College history. After the stunning victory, head coach Alison Montgomery, senior Sophie Spolter, and junior Maya Hicks, who had the game of her life with a career-high 19 points and the game-tying three-pointer with 36 seconds left in regulation, talked about what allowed the Bobcats to pull off the comeback. I've been here 11 years. That's the greatest game I've seen in alumni game. I don't know about you, Coach.
Yeah, Aaron, I'd just like to say, that's a tough thing to say given the games that we've already had in this gym, particularly one where we clawed back from a comeback. But yeah, I mean, just as a team, we just talked about obviously the resilience of just feeling like it's never over until that final buzzer sounds, and the way they stay together through that, and just keep believing and being really committed to who we are and what we want to do. And they more than weathered that storm, and I think Smith was really keying in on a couple of our players who have led us the last couple games. Obviously, Sarah and Elsa just are leading scorers and some key players, and that's been the story of this team all year round, like all year long, is that we're deep and people step up, and these two sitting right next to me here stepped up big time to get that one for their team.
I have a question about what shifted for you guys coming out of the halftime. It was kind of a tough second quarter. So how did you guys generate offensive momentum and defensive stops coming into the third?
I mean, what we talked about in at halftime is just, we felt like we got to good shots and we had good opportunities and we weren't finishing them. So it was kind of about, we were saying like we felt like the pace and it felt a little more chaotic than the actual numbers showed. Like we weren't turning the ball over. We were getting to the shots that we wanted. So we felt like we just needed to settle in and finish the shots that we were getting. And I thought our team did a good job of capitalizing on that. And we did shift some of the stuff we were running to be a little more like attacking in transition. And we are always keyed in on our pace. So we tried to get more going in transition.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that three-pointer that tied up the game, that was awesome. What was going through your head right after you sunk that?
Honestly, I was just praying we would get a stop in the next possession. The whole theme that we've had this year has really been a one-at-a-time mentality, and I think that's something that we took extremely seriously after we came out of half, is just knowing, again, like Coach said, it's never over till it's over. So after I hit that three, I was just looking at my teammates, I was like, all right, guys, we just got to get a stop, and then we just got to get another score. So really, it's just that mentality.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You guys overall move the ball pretty well. I noted that this is a pretty unselfish team. And I guess to going off of your point, how did your team create those scoring opportunities for both of you guys?
I think our biggest goal is to win. There's no one on our team that's I want to score 15 points. I want to do this. And yeah, our biggest goal is just winning, and we know that moving the ball and sharing it is the best way to get that. And yeah, I guess that's what we did.
So this might be your last game. Well, this is your last game in Alumni Gym. This might be yours as well. How are we feeling about that?
I think this is the best way we could have gone out.
No better way.
We were all just saying that before the game, at half, after the game. This gym is something really special. This community is something really special, and so is this team. And no matter what happened in that game, we just wanted to make every little second count, and it happened to work in our favor.
Yeah.
And to that end, do you think alumni magic is real?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Anything else?
That's all for me.
Can you talk about, expanding on that a little bit, the decibel level in there was outrageous. Just how does that propel you in the moment, and then especially in overtime, just give you that feel seeing the student section, all of that?
It's everything. Like at halftime, we were talking about like a play we're running, and we don't really have a hand motion for it. And I was like, I'm doing this. Like we gotta, like nobody can hear what I'm saying. So like that, but it's just everything. Like the community and everyone showing up. Like it was even better than yesterday. Like I don't know how it was better than yesterday, but it was. And just everyone showing up and cheering. It was great.
And you had 20 points yesterday, 20 points again today. Just what is it about these big time moments in the NCAA tournament where you are able to really turn things on?
I don't know. I just came in, like I said yesterday, like with the mindset of like my shots are going to go in and I'm going to be aggressive, and my teammates got me open and everything. So just being aggressive and wanting to win, have some senior magic a little bit, alumni magic, community, everything. Everything goes into it.
And for both of you, I forget the number on the other team, but just she was using her height in the paint and getting a lot of offensive rebounds. Just what was it like dealing with that and sort of trying to contain that throughout the game?
I really think it's just having our backs for our post players down there that were dealing with that physicality. Super strong player that was using her size well, and we just had to have each other's backs there. That's definitely an adjustment that we knew we needed to make. Sorry, excuse me. But I think it was just a key focus for us to rebound, because that's what propels us forward offensively.
How are we feeling going into the next round? What kind of mentality are we bringing into it?
Going back to where we went last year, so I'm really excited, honestly. Like I think our team this year is so much more prepared and we have so much more belief and everything, and we just love each other so much, and like clearly that belief and love and work ethic got us this win, and that's bigger than any other skill you can have in basketball, I think. So, yeah.
That's great, Coach.
Yeah, I think Maya spoke to it. One of our 3 kind of values, visions this year is one at a time. So I think when you're competing, when you're really kind of chasing anything that's really important to you, and you have that vision, because you have to have it to get there, but it's sort of like, how do you manage that every single day in the process, right? So I think this group has done a really good job of sort of having that vision, but then understanding that to really like believe in that end goal, like you just have to show up every single day and do it one at a time, like one day at a time, one possession at a time, and they've really bought into that. So I just think, we're thinking about the Sweet 16 game, and we really feel like we're pretty battle tested and prepared, and this team is ready to play the next round.
Yeah.
Is the Scranton game over? They want to play right now?
Yeah, we're ready.
Assuming we win, I don't know.
Just one more for you. Heading back to overtime, you've already played 40 minutes.
Yeah.
5 more minutes. Just how do you instill that fuel in them, and then for you guys, how do you sort of rise above to, you've already exhausted everything, and then you have this extra period you have to play through?
Like honestly, I was like thinking on the court, I was like, I am like not tired. Like, I was more tired in the third quarter than I was in overtime. Like there was just, we all had this like want to win, and we knew what we needed to do and give everything we have for that last 5 minutes. And yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that 5 minutes really just gives us a second wind. It just gives us its own fuel, knowing like we have 5 more minutes to play and 5 more minutes to take each possession one at a time. Mm-hmm. And that just gives you a different type of energy, especially when you have a community like we do backing us up.
Yeah.
I think for me, I just always want to give the message to our team, like whatever position that we're in, this is where we want to be right now. Oh, good, we're down 18? Perfect, let's work together. You know, like I just think really wanting them to feel like, to never feel like down about that, or to feel like overwhelmed by adversity, but more like, okay, absolutely, like we're in this position, and how are we, like what's the next action we're going to take? So, you know, going into overtime, I just said to them, like, of course we're here. Like, you know, it's not gonna, like, we're not gonna, you know, like, we were down double digits, and you clawed back, and of course, like, we have to go a little bit extra. We got to get a couple more inches here if you really want to take this. And, I mean, that is an incredibly good team. Like, so disciplined, so well coached, so experienced. So, I mean, just understanding, like, you know, I think that's the key message. Like, wherever we're at, we're going to be where our feet are, and we're going to take action, and we're going to move through it.
I was going to say, Coach, like, I mean, Bowdoin lost to USM. You beat Smith, the national runner-up last 2 years. It's just wide open, it seems like, in Division III mostly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Super exciting. I think like the parity is changing, and I just think it's really great. I mean, just so much momentum around women's sports, women's basketball, and I just think, yeah, it's really exciting to see some different contenders rising.
Spolter had a huge weekend in general for Bates, scoring 20 points on 6 of 9 shooting in Friday's first round, 71-57 win over the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Then she followed that up with another 20-point performance, this time on 7 of 12 shooting against Smith, as the Bobcats earned a spot in the Sweet 16 for the 4th time in program history and the 2nd time in the past 3 years. And Sophie Spolter is our female Bobcat of the week. Well, what a weekend, Sophie. Have you had time to reflect on these games? We're talking on a Monday. The amazing game happened there on Saturday, of course. Second round win, first round win on Friday. But have you had time to kind of sit back and wow, what just happened?
Honestly, we've been talking about it. We can't believe that just happened. That's the 2nd time this season that we've come back from a huge deficit. And it's just amazing, especially the last game in alumni we're ever going to play for us and the juniors. It's just super special.
And certainly, I mean, the atmosphere, the crowd, especially for the Smith game, because Smith had a lot of fans here, too. What was that like to play in front of them?
Oh, my God. The crowd here was insane. I said in one of the interviews already, but it was better than the first day. There were even more fans here. It was so loud, and it was super awesome, that everyone still believed in us. Even after we were down 16.5, everyone stayed and still cheered us on.
Now, you're a female Bobcat because you scored 20 points in both games. But Maya Hicks, a career high 19. What can you say about what she was able to do?
Maya was unreal. Every time she shot it, I was that is going in. It honestly doesn't surprise me either. She is so good in practice, and I'm so happy that she was able to do that in front of everyone too. It was a really special moment.
When she hit the 3 to tie the game, you had such a grin on your face. I noticed. I mean, what was going through your mind after she hit that shot?
I was just heck yeah, Maya. It was perfect. And I also watched it back on the film, and it was kind of a step back off the line, and it was just such a huge shot. It was so awesome. I'm so happy she hit that.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, at what point in the second half where you're thinking, because the third quarter you outscored them a little bit, but you were still down 12. So what point, was there a turning point in the game or were you just kind of grinding away?
Yeah, I think the whole time our entire team's mindset was we're still winning this game even when we were down however many. But yeah, so we just kind of took it one possession at a time and had to get stops and got some scores too.
So there was no real moment where you're wait, this is turning? Or
honestly, no. I feel I kind of just looked up and it was a lot closer than it was. And I was all right, cool. I knew this was going to happen. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen. And I mean, Smith's a really good team. And so it was just super awesome that we kept grinding and came out with a win.
Yeah, they're definitely, I mean, them and Bowdoin probably the 2 best teams you've played this year. I mean, are they similar teams or are they completely different challenges?
I think Bowdoin probably has more of a post presence than Smith did. Smith was more guard reliant. I mean, obviously their bigs did a lot too, but I still think they're both really good teams, and it was fun to play both of them.
Now we're returning to a place we were just at a year ago. Obviously, you had that moment against Southern Virginia in the first round, the game-winning shot in that game at Scranton. Obviously played Scranton last year. What do you remember about that game? I know they got off to a good start in that game, and they ended up in the Elite Eight that year. But, I mean, what can you remember about what you learned from that experience that you're going to apply this season?
Yeah, I think we're just I mean, we obviously lost one senior, and obviously she was huge for us. But I think we're a lot different this year. We have a lot more depth, I think, and the freshmen. I mean, we had 6 freshmen last year. We have a lot more experience, and they got experience playing that game too. And so I think we're just more confident. Also, I think everyone's ready to go back and just play them again and show them how much better we are, and that not to count us out.
Yeah, it's got to be a little exciting to get another chance at them, right?
Oh yeah, I'm so excited to play them again.
Yeah, certainly. Just this year, I mean, you've broken the program record for wins in one season. I mean, that's. I kept looking at 2004-2005 season, 25-3. I'm no one's going to touch that. Well, 26-3 now. What's it like? What's it mean to you to break that record? Because women's basketball has been around here since the late 60s.
Mm-hmm. It's everything. This program, personally, has been everything to me these past 4 years, and I know everyone else on our team agrees. And it's just been such a special year, and just want to keep getting more wins, and I know we can.
Yeah, it's definitely, obviously, not over yet in terms of going to the Sweet 16 and a chance to make more history, right? Because this team has never been in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I know we can get to the Elite Eight and even further. And I'm just really excited to get to put on a Bates jersey again and play with my teammates and my best friends.
Yeah, certainly. What are your thoughts you wanted to mention about this past weekend? I mean, it's just you had to kind of be here to experience it, but I mean, anything else you want to mention we're going to talk about?
Just, I guess, thanks to the community and thanks for coming out and supporting, because we couldn't have done it without everyone. They were a huge part of that.
Excellent. Sophie Spolter, our Female Bobcat of the Week. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
The Bates men's basketball team also competed in the NCAA tournament this past weekend, losing a heartbreaker to Yeshiva by a score of 71-69, as two late free throws after a foul got called against Bates proved to be the difference. However, the Bobcats still went 18-9 this season, advancing to the NESCAC semifinals for the first time since 2012 and making the NCAA Division III tournament for the second time in program history. The 18 wins are tied for the fourth most in one season for Bates men's basketball. Another team making noise is the Bates men's lacrosse program. The Bobcats are off to a 6-0 start, their best since 2017, after 3 wins last week, including a 14-8 victory over Trinity to put Bates at 2-0 in NESCAC action. Junior Riley McClure was named the NESCAC Player of the Week after he tallied a career-high 7 points in the win over the Bantams. And he is our male Bobcat of the Week. Well, Riley, first of all, what a great start to the year for men's lacrosse. I mean, 6-0 record, your best start since 2017 as a program. As a junior, what was it meant to you to see this program grow so much even from 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, when I came in freshman year, I think a lot of people were excited. We had a big class, and we became competitive in a bunch of games. We never really got over the hump. And then last year, during my sophomore year, we started winning more games, but we never really got that, crucial victory, that ranked win. So then when we came in this year, we really wanted to start fast, really wanted to go out, beat Wesleyan, beat Trinity. So it's been a great start, and it's great to see.
Yeah, the win at Wesleyan, particularly impressive because we just saw Wesleyan beat RIT. So they're obviously a very good team. We knew that they had a high ranking, but they've shown they're a good team. So that's kind of a signature win, right? I mean, would you say that's biggest of your time at Bates so far?
I'd say definitely, yeah. We really wanted that one because we played them twice, almost beat them during the regular season last year, and then obviously they bumped us out of the playoffs. So we came into that game kind of on a revenge tour, and this whole year kind of has been so far because Trinity was probably the team that bumped us out of the NCAA tournament last year too. So it was awesome to play both of them first 2 games. We definitely had a lot of motivation, wanted to play them. So
excellent. And your NESCAC Player of the Week, how does that feel?
Definitely feels great. Could have given it to honestly any one of the guys on this team. We had a pretty balanced attack, but definitely great to get. Yeah. Yeah,
you had a career high 7 points against Trinity. You had 5 goals in that game. What was opening up for you on offense?
So it's all about kind of starting early for us. Got them all in the first half, and then it kind of opened it up. They started guarding me a lot more, and it opened it up for everyone else on the offense to kind of do it. So definitely a great feeling.
Just take us back growing up. How did you first get started, playing lacrosse? What made it a sport you loved?
So it started as early as first grade for me. I didn't really know anything about it, and then this family, they're the Hicks, and they kind of got me into it at the beginning, and we actually just played Dylan Hicks, the son, on Trinity. So I got to talk to him after the game, got to talk to the family, and that was awesome.
Yeah, and then as you grew up, kind of what made Bates eventually the place for you when you were looking at colleges?
So I wanted a place that had great academics along with great lacrosse, and I was looking at a bunch of different NESCACs. Then Coach talked to me about the situation, about what he wanted to build here, and it just really stuck with me, and I really wanted to be a part of it, and I thought, looked into it, it'd be a great fit.
You have an interesting role. I mean, Coach, I asked him, is Riley an attacker or a midfielder? He's like, it's kind of both. Tell me about your role within this team.
Yeah, so I played midi pretty much my entire life, all through high school. And then I went in and played midi freshman year because Will Masterson was attack, and he kind of talked to me, mentored me, told me a bunch of stuff about how to play, and then we ended up playing great together. And he graduated, and we didn't have really too much of a role of lefty attack still on the roster. So I tried it out attack, ended up loving it, and then we came in this year, and I'm sticking to it. So it's been great to play both, and I can definitely use both. Use midi for riding on attack. Helps me be a more well-balanced player. So
you're more so of an attacker this year, though?
Yeah, definitely attack for now. But we've been trying to switch up a bunch of lineups, so you never know. I could come in midi a game, play attack the next game. We're just trying to keep defense on edge.
We now have had back-to-back NESCAC Player of the Week in men's lacrosse. Andrew Tolan last week, and I think he had 20 more saves the other day against Trinity. Another great performance. Yeah, what's it like to have him in goal? I mean, I don't know if it's watching him do what he does.
Yeah, it's amazing to be able to see him. I got front row seats for it because we're sitting on attack while they're on defense, so we get to see them the whole time. And you kind of see him moving around in goal, and he just sees the ball so well and is able to get it out and clear it. So having him is just really a safety blanket for us to be confident that we're going to get the ball back on offense, be able to score.
Now, looking at the upcoming schedule, I believe you're on the road at Amherst, right?
We are.
Yeah, so Amherst is always a tough team. You're pretty even in the national rankings right now. So what are your thoughts on this upcoming game? It could be a pivotal one, right?
Yeah, we're right next to each other.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great one. That's another one for the revenge tour. We lost, I think, 8-7 to them last year. It was a really good game last year, and we ended up getting close but not coming on top, kind of the theme of last year. But we're trying to come through this year and really do another pivotal game.
Yeah, that's a low-scoring game, I feel like, for lacrosse. Does Amherst play a certain style that makes it a little more low-scoring?
Their defense is definitely their strong point, and this year we've started to really analyze the defenses more before games. We've gotten hit with a lot of zones so far, and we've been kind of working before to see, all right, what does this particular zone do, and what can we do to kind of beat this zone? And it's really helped us start fast in games this year so far. So hopefully we do that again. We're going to look into it. We got all week to prepare, rest up our bodies because we just had a gauntlet for the first 6 games.
Well, yeah, you mentioned the gauntlet. I mean, it's funny, even the non-conference games, like that game against Emerson in the snow. I mean, the snow was probably the toughest part of that game, but tell me a little bit about dealing with the weather conditions sometimes.
Yeah, first snow game ever for me. It was amazing to play. People definitely started slipping around after a little bit, but for the gauntlet to start the year, we came in scheduling. We wanted to have pretty much one of the most difficult schedules, and we started off the year playing a Wednesday and then a Friday with little rest, and then we just played Saturday and then Sunday. So Coach definitely made the games back-to-backs, made it so we can play when we're tired to prepare us for the playoffs or what we want to do later in the year.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I believe in the postseason, the semifinal and the final is back-to-back, right?
Yeah. And then the first round, too, of the NCAA tournament, I think, is Saturday, Sunday. So definitely getting used to it, and it's good to do that early so that we can be ready for later.
It's interesting. This year has been one of the more successful seasons for Bates athletics writ large during my time, at least. What's it like as a student athlete to see not only your team having success, but a lot of other teams too?
Yeah, it's been so amazing to see. I mean, I feel like when I came in freshman year, it was our team is on the same path as so many other teams here. I feel like I've just been able to see every team build on campus and just get huge crowds come to the game, cheer everyone on. The women's basketball game that everyone was just at, it was the loudest I've seen pretty much since I've been here. And it was amazing to kind of try and will them to victory.
Excellent. Well, any other thoughts you wanted to share on the men's lacrosse team and what people can expect to see kind of going forward this year?
We're going to keep working together, keep switching up lineups, just pretty much keeping defenses on edge. I think we've definitely both NESCAC games, we've pulled the other goalie 4 of the 6 games so far that we've played. So just trying to start early, make other teams on edge, and then keep going, closing out games. That's been another big emphasis for us because for the Wesleyan game, we were up by a lot, and then got a little hairy in the fourth there. But we were in the same exact situation against Trinity, and we were going into the fourth quarter, and Coach was talking about hey guys, this is pretty much the exact same thing, and we just worked on all week. You guys have a lead, let's stick with it. So we kind of had that mindset to try and finish it out, and that's going to be a point of emphasis for us for the rest of the year.
All right, Bobcats at Amherst on Saturday should be a good one. Riley McClure is our male Bobcat of the week and the NESCAC Player of the Week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The women's tennis team won a thriller on Sunday for their first NESCAC win of the season. The Bobcats defeated Trinity 4-3 at Merrill Gym, with first-year Leah Swire picking up the clinching win in 3 sets at number 4 singles. Well, Leah, before we talk about a thrilling win over Trinity there on Sunday at Merrill Gym, from Massachusetts, tell me a little bit about growing up. How did tennis become your number 1 sport, perhaps?
Yeah, so actually my whole family plays tennis, so it's always been a thing in my family. My dad got me and my older sister Maddie into it, and we've just been playing our whole lives, since we've been probably 5 years old. We've had a tennis racket in our hand. But yeah, my older sister Maddie, she actually is a senior at Amherst College, and she plays college tennis there. So I feel like that's kind of what got me into the college tennis scene, like seeing her matches in the NESCAC. I just really wanted to do the same kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of what got me here today.
And so speaking of that, I mean, when you were looking at colleges, what made Bates the place for you?
I think it was probably the visit here, like just like meeting the team. Like honestly, they were so incredibly amazing. Like they were so sweet, and I think that was definitely a big part of what I was looking for in terms of tennis. Like I wanted a team that I knew I could be, friendly with and get along with well, and like had good teammates basically to support me.
This past weekend, I mean, it comes down to just your match. So normally, like, there's other matches going on, stuff like that. Everyone's watching you, right? What was that experience like being the final match? Because you know right then it's tied, right? 3-3?
Yeah. It was definitely stressful. I mean, even that day we had a couple changes to the lineup. So the day before I had played 6 singles, and now I was bumped up to 4th singles because a few of our players were out sick. So it was definitely a quick turnaround in that number 4 singles spot. But the pressure was definitely on. Everyone was next to my court cheering me on. But honestly, like, I thought it would stress me out, everyone watching me. But like in the end, it actually was not stressful. It helped me out a lot. I think it just made it that much easier for me to, keep my head, like keep level headed and, keep fighting through that match. Obviously, it was a real nail biter. 3 sets is a lot. I think it ended up being around a 3-hour match, which is probably the longest match I've ever played. But yeah, honestly, I don't think I would have been able to pull it out without my teammates there to support me.
And at one point, I believe the Trinity opponent was serving for the match. Is that right?
Yes, she had a game. I think she was up 15-love, serving for the match. Yes. Honestly, I think I was so like just in the match, so focused. I wasn't really like realizing in my head like, oh, like she's 3 points away from winning. I was just so focused on my own, things that I had to do and stay focused on just staying level-headed and not freaking out in the moment. So I think, I guess I didn't really realize that, but I think it's for the better.
Yeah, you ended up breaking her, obviously, and getting that point, which was huge, and then you ended up winning that third set 7-5. So take us through the match point that clinched it. I mean, what happened on there, and then what was the celebration like? Yeah,
so that game was definitely like, I was really like high energy. Like I knew I had to stay focused to get that game to pull it out. I think there was one point she hit a serve, it like dribbled over the net. Like obviously can't really do anything about it. It's not fun to see, but I knew I just had to keep level headed and keep focusing on that game. And once it got to match point, she ended up double faulting, which honestly I'm kind of relieved I didn't have to do anything on that point, but. It would have been nice to have, a fun point at the end, but still, I was just so happy. The first thing I could think of after that point was running to my team. Like, I just needed, like, a hug from them because they were there the entire time. And I'm sure they were more stressed than I was. Like, my parents were there. I'm sure they were more nervous than I was on the court. Like, I wouldn't want to watch my match. I wouldn't want to be in their position. Like, I think it's more stressful to watch. But, yeah, honestly, like, all I could think of in that last moment was my team, and that was probably the best moment I've had at this school so far. So
yeah, I saw the photos. Obviously, like, somewhat of a court storm from the team.
Yeah.
What's that celebration like? You mentioned best moment here at the school so far. Have you ever had a moment like that in tennis, even going back to high school?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had close matches, and like I've played high school matches where I've obviously had my team supporting me, but I think college tennis is just such a different level, and especially like having that clinch match, like the first sort of match where I could win, in singles, especially at 4th singles, like again, like spot I'd never been in before. But yeah, I mean, I'd never experienced anything like that, and it was truly amazing.
Yeah, and the match got off to a good start when the Bobcats took the doubles point early on. You helped with that at number 2 doubles, teaming up with Bella Saul. What's that team been like?
It's been good. I played a few times with Bella now, and I always like love playing with her. She is so high energy. She's just amazing to be on the court with. Like, I love her energy. She's always cheering me on, always keeping me up. And, like, honestly, I feel like we just trust each other so much with our doubles. We've been playing, like, so many matches together that day we just were so solid and we felt good. And I don't think there was a moment where the energy wasn't up. So props to her and props to the rest of the team, honestly. I think that doubles point was really important because it gave us the momentum going into those singles matches, which we definitely needed, losing a few players in the lineup. But yeah, that was really important.
Yeah, certainly. And, being a first year, I'm curious, coming from high school tennis to college tennis, you touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the biggest differences? What's been the biggest adjustment for you, perhaps?
I think just the energy overall, like college tennis is just on such a different level in terms of like cheering and, supporting your teammates. Like you have no idea how much of a difference it helps, like having your teammates by your side, like being loud. Like I know tennis is usually such a quiet sport. Like obviously during the points, you're trying to stay quiet, you're trying to stay focused. Like Wimbledon, everyone is like dead silent watching the match. But in college tennis, like cheering is such a huge part of it. And like we've played teams that, have been quieter before. And obviously like it doesn't really, I don't know, the team spirit just doesn't seem as strong with those teams. And then the match against Trinity, actually, they have a pretty loud team. So I think that's part of the reason why the energy was so high, because we needed to match that and actually beat it. So yeah, I've never heard my teammates that loud before. And honestly, like I didn't know that they had it in them, but it worked, so.
And obviously, we have multiple tennis courts at Bates. When it gets nice outside, we have the Wallach Tennis Center. When it's maybe not as nice, we have the Merrill Gymnasium for indoor. The surface there, I understand, very different than other surfaces. I imagine that's been an adjustment, talking with other first years here. But what's it been like playing on that surface? Because I know it's fast, right?
Yeah, it's pretty quick. I think the first time I played in Merrill, I was definitely taken by surprise. I was not prepared for the ball to come that fast. But honestly, it's like been a huge help. Obviously, like the home court advantage is huge with courts that fast. Like not a lot of other schools have courts that fast, but it's like honestly, it's fun to play on. Once you get the hang of it, like then you can kind of adjust your game to how fast the courts are. It's a lot of like serve and volley, return and volley, like a lot of closing into the net, which I feel like is a big part of my game. So definitely that like aggressive play style has been improved throughout just playing in Merrill. So yeah.
And then looking ahead at the schedule, you mentioned your older sister plays at Amherst. Well, they're coming here Sunday, April 12th, so a little over a month from now. It'll actually be senior day for the Bobcats, but a 1 p.m. match, and that may be outside actually at Wallach. But is there any chance you would play against your sister, or does not line up properly, perhaps?
We'll see. I'm not sure where she is in the lineup these days. I don't know all the new players on the Amherst team, but you never know. Like maybe we'll play each other. Maybe she'll play one of my teammates, but it'll definitely be a fun match to see. And I think my parents will definitely make it out to that match. They'll be wearing both garnet and purple. So.
If she's a little bit older, but growing up, did you play her a lot against her?
Yeah, I played a lot like with her in practice. Maybe not like in tournaments just because she was in that different age group, but definitely just like hitting with each other, like hitting with our dad also, like just for fun. We did a lot of that.
Excellent. Well, any other thoughts you want to mention about the training match we're having to talk about? Anything else you wanted to mention that really stood out to you?
Honestly, I just felt like it was a great start to the season. Like, obviously, our first NESCAC match against Tufts was a tough one. They're a really strong team in the NESCAC for sure. And, that was my first singles match in the playing a NESCAC team. And I think just moving into the Trinity match, like, I think, and losing those players, like, the adversity we faced was so, incredible. The fact that we still pulled that out after losing so many players. Like our team is already very small, and like it got even smaller that day. But honestly, like props to everyone that day. Like I know my match was the last one, so maybe it was a little bit more like exciting to watch, but like everyone else like pulled out their match. Like it was an amazing day for all of us, and like I think we were all just so determined that day, and it really sets the scene for the rest of our season.
Absolutely. The Bobcats even up their record in the NESCAC play at 1-1. They're at Middlebury this Saturday at 11 a.m., then at Williams Sunday at 10 a.m. And so this will be your first NESCAC road trip. Looking forward to back-to-back matches.
Oh yeah, it'll be big. I mean, we've done a few road trips in the fall, but never a NESCAC one, and we haven't done one, overnight. So it'll be interesting, but I'm excited to travel with the team. Yeah,
certainly. And Bates will be home again. Mark your calendars, April 11th, 10 a.m. against Hamilton. The weather's nice. We'll be at the Wallach Tennis Center. Leah, congratulations on the clinching victory, and thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast.
Thank you so much.
The softball team opens the 2026 campaign in Florida, starting this Sunday with 10 games scheduled over the course of 6 days. It's a veteran squad, and head coach Kat McKay gives us a season preview. 50 years of Bates softball, first of all. Tell me a little bit about what that means, from a historical perspective for this team playing for, so many who have come before them, right?
Honestly, it's unreal just how far this program has come from what I had heard, the stories of the past of how Bates softball started. It was a bunch of women that just got together and, threw some gloves on. They had I think I heard the stories that they wore basketball jerseys at the time. And now look at us 50 years later. We're talking about a turf facility. We're just got new uniforms. We have a new look. And just look how far the program's come. It's unbelievable to be a part of it, especially this year.
Yeah, make sure you follow the Instagram because I know they'll be unveiling those new uniforms pretty soon. They're on social. But, in terms of this year's team, right, you have a bunch of all NESCAC players returning. In fact, 4 of them. So what is that like to have that much talent coming back this season?
Honestly, it's incredible. The ones that are here this year have really bought in. They've put the time in the weight room outside of just our practices. They're really trying to perfect their craft, and the first years that are coming in behind them are in the exact same place. They want to be here. They're hungry for it. So watching this leadership come in that's so talented, it's going to be an amazing season.
So Delaney Rankin obviously is the kind of headliner right in the circle. What's kind of, does she have a next step kind of to take her game to the next level? What are you looking to, because she's a senior now, right? So what are you looking for from a senior campaign from her?
Honestly, what I'm looking forward to having with her is she has a bullpen behind her. She doesn't have to carry the weight of the season. We have a phenomenal pitching staff. We actually have 6 this year. So Delaney is going to be obviously, in the circle. She's going to be carrying her load, but she has somebody else to help her do that this year. So with Delaney, she just, we want her to stay healthy. We want her to last through the season. Whereas before, when we had a smaller pitching staff, we weren't able to throw her, as much to give her that rest and give her that rest that she needed. So now we're able to do that.
Tell us about the other pitchers. I mean, 6 pitchers is a lot for softball.
It is, but you know what? When I started here, I think we had 1 or 2, and I felt so bad throwing them with all the innings that they had. But now we have Delaney, who is our senior, and then we have our junior Bella. We also have Bridget and Haley and Ryan. And now Claire, she's a first year. So we have a lot of arms and a lot of options.
As a coach, I mean, you almost have to manage win situations, stuff like that. Are you looking forward to the challenge, kind of figure out when to throw which pitchers?
I have to admit, I'm a big baseball fan, right? And I love a closer. And I think now we can do that. When teams come up and they see our pitcher 3-4 times through the lineup, that 4th time they start to hit, right? And they start to pick up on tendencies. Now we have the availability to say, okay, let's switch it up and honestly not lose a step.
And then Bo Betancourt, obviously behind the plate, big time hitter last year, a breakout season really for her. Tell me about what you're looking forward to from seeing from her this season. I know she got off to a really hot start last year, and that pretty much carried her through the year. But tell me a little bit about what her next step.
Bo's a stud behind the plate. The relationships that she makes with our pitchers, knowing their strengths, their weaknesses, when to throw what pitch. She has been amazing, and she's such a leader, not just for the pitchers, but for the whole team back there. They kind of look to her as, Mama Bo. She keeps them in line for sure.
And it was great seeing her play volleyball this fall, right? I mean, a 2-sport athlete now.
Yeah, and we're really looking forward to watching her on the court there again. She was an absolute stud for volleyball team this year too. But we're happy to have her back on the softball field.
And then we mentioned 4 NESCAC players. We've talked about 2 of them so far, Delaney and Bo. But the left side of the infield, right? Emma Yan at third base, Ella Marr at shortstop. I know Ella's pretty much the shortstop, but I know Emma can play different spots. She's back at third this year?
Yeah, we started Emma at second base when she came in as a freshman, but now we moved her over to third. And I made the comment the other day at practice, she's a vacuum over there. She's laying out for balls. She's got quick hands, quick transitions, and she and Ella together on that left side of the field with Ella's range, the communication that they share, it's like telekinetic a little bit, that they just read each other's mind. It's been amazing.
I feel like Ella had a kind of a breakout season hitting wise last season a little bit too, right?
She did. We just actually had a meeting with Ella and we talked about her swing, and she's so disciplined at the plate. She's got a beautiful swing. She knows what pitches she wants to swing at, and she goes up there to execute.
And then Anderson in center field has made some amazing plays throughout her time here. She's been honored, I think, All-State a couple times. Tell me a little bit about what she brings to the table? Because you've had her at the top of the order before and kind of mixing it up at the bottom as well, right?
Yeah, so she brings a very strong bat to our lineup. But in the outfield, she's making ESPN-style dives and plays, catches that you think that ball's going to hit, and somehow Zaria gets to it, whether she's laid out or on her feet. She's just an explosive player and just full of athleticism, so strong. So we're really looking forward to having her back in the lineup.
You mentioned baseball earlier. There's a saying in baseball, you want to be really strong up the middle. And it seems like this softball team, very strong up the middle, right?
100%. Even on our right side, we have Maddie Miller playing second base. The range that she has, her height, it brings so much to that second base, especially when somebody hits it to that right side. So yes, we are very strong up the middle. Very happy.
Are there other players you wanted to mention maybe we haven't got to talk about who are looking to be key contributors this season?
Well, if you think about our right side of the field, we have Sophie Garber, who we transitioned as an outfielder to a first baseman last year. She made that transition beautifully, and she's worked so hard on the craft, especially picking balls at first base. She has come so far, and you'll see her there again this year. Really excited about Emily Kennedy. She has played in big spots for us in the past years, but, in big moments. Now she, I think, is going to play a bigger role this year. And then, of course, can't forget Sienna out in left field. She tracked some balls down last year for us that were unreal and threw a seed to the plate, to make some big outs. So we're really excited about, honestly, the whole field, the young ones coming up, everybody.
I was going to say, the last 2 years, you've only had one senior each year, right? So this group has really gotten a lot of experience playing, and now they're into the point where, they're, upperclassmen, basically. That's what got to be pretty exciting, right?
It's very exciting because I've now been here long enough to have these women here for 4 years. Yeah. And they have bought into what we've been, kind of feeding the team, the culture, the style of play. We're finally at a point where we're so excited for the season.
So the season opening trip to Florida, as I mentioned, it's basically 2 games a day for a week with one off day mixed in. But what are you most looking forward to from this trip? What are you hoping to see from your team getting down there, in the sunshine after, practicing a lot, I'm sure, in the cage and even on Leahy Field, right?
Honestly, we're always looking forward to just being outside and getting in the dirt, right? Getting dirty. We love to just be able to get outside, especially after an ice cold winter. We've been blessed this year to have used the turf as much as we have. We've had, honestly, and I say this lightly, but a light winter for our preseason. But we cannot wait to kind of see where we're at. We really take these 10 games as, okay, what can we do to build off this for conference? And so that's what we're most excited for is just, okay, here's the bar. Let's raise it now when we get back.
Sounds good. Kat McKay, thanks so much for giving us a softball preview. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy to have you.
Bates College is in the international spotlight after it was announced that Tyler McKenzie from the class of 2014 qualified for the Winter Paralympic Games for Team USA in standing alpine skiing. Before the games began last Saturday, we got a chance to chat with the first Paralympian in Bates College history. Well, Tyler, first of all, congratulations on this great achievement, becoming the first Paralympian in Bates College history. Your class of 2014. But before we talk about the Paralympics, take us back growing up. What got you into skiing and what eventually led you to Bates and joining the alpine skiing team here?
Skiing's been a part of my family in general. And again, thank you. It's really cool. And to really have that statistic is kind of wild. Skiing's been a part of my family and my upbringing since I was just really little, 2 or 3. Grew up in central Massachusetts. Weather was either good or bad, the typical New England game. And we were a winter family. We were on ice hockey skates or skis. The local hill, Mount Wachusett, was a 10-12 minute drive through the woods from our house, and I had the opportunity to kind of start learning there and then eventually try out different programs and started to kind of fall in love with alpine racing at a young age, and that kind of sort of started to take off. And fortunate enough for that home mountain, the mountain is fully lit at night, so I had the opportunity to go to public school and train at night after classes and not really have to change the ebb and flow of a normal kid's life at first, and then eventually sort of grew out of that program as I entered high school years, and that took me north to New Hampshire. I spent a few years at Proctor Academy in Andover, New Hampshire, and was there to race alpine and pursue academics and continue to push towards being the best version of myself. And then senior year comes along, and I had a leg injury. Had a tib fib spiral fracture, and had sort of started to look at, schools where there was a ski program and I would have the opportunity to potentially ski, but also where did I want to go to learn? And I ended up driving up to Lewiston on my own and kind of fell in love with the campus and the people and the opportunities right from the get-go, and ended up applying one and done early decision, and sort of Bates was the place that I wanted to be. And when letters came in the mail, it was I was one of the first kids at school to find out I had been accepted, and it was sort of a pretty ecstatic moment for me to continue to rehab, to get back to alpine racing and my passion there, but then also know that I had the opportunity to pursue, the academic experience that I was extremely excited about.
Now, did you spend 3 years on the alpine skiing team here, or all 4? How did that kind of go?
So I kind of walked on after coming in from injury, and built out sort of my freshman year, and was able to train and race and kind of engage with the team, and then spent 3 years with the program from there on out. And some of my best friends, some of my closest friends, coaches, staff, it was really, I think the amount of student athletes at Bates and having the opportunity to partake in that side of the experience really sort of makes the campus what it is.
Tell me a little bit about, after graduating from Bates, what happened in terms of the injury you suffered at that point that, obviously much worse than the one in high school that you've had to recover from and to get to this point where you're now a Paralympian, but obviously it's a long journey. But tell us a little bit about what happened there.
Yeah, so I spent a little bit of time out east after graduating, trying to figure out, what it was that I wanted to do. I had some job offers in Boston and Portland, and was sort of trying to decipher if I wanted to enter into the corporate space or not. I ended up coaching in New Hampshire for a few years, staying outside, staying active, and then kind of decided that if I wanted to continue this growth arc, that I needed to find bigger mountains and graduate school opportunities. So I ended up packing up the car and driving to Salt Lake City. Started building a new life out there, pushing myself in the mountains, pushing myself in the classroom, really trying to, again, just keep pushing to, who is it that I want to end up being? And at the end of sort of the best winter of my life in 2017, I ended up, suffering a pretty big free skiing accident with a really close group of friends. It was the last run of the day, coming back from some out of bounds skiing and touring and a bunch of free skiing, and getting back to the vehicle at the end of the day and on a run in some pretty exposed terrain that I had skied many, many, many times that year. I ended up kind of letting loose some snow and getting carried through a bunch of exposure, bouncing off some rocks, and eventually, after traveling quite a while, rested against a tree, cracked the back of my scapula, a bunch of other blunt trauma injuries to my left torso. But the big one was that I had a complete brachial plexus avulsion. So all of the nerves in my neck that power my left arm were ripped off of my spinal cord pretty instantaneously. I had some shoulder issues from crashes in college. I thought I had broken my arm or messed up my shoulder, or really kind of just was trying to manage not going into shock and not thinking too much. The first thing was going to be getting me off the hill and getting me down the canyon. And I was lucky, very fortunate that day, Justin Sperry, who is a very close friend of mine. He was a Colby grad, but was also our assistant coach at Bates at least my senior year, but I think my junior and senior year as well. And he was with me that day. So I had, someone I intimately knew and a bunch of very close friends from Utah. And they all were part of the process of getting me stabilized and keeping me calm and getting me, down to the university. And my neurosurgeon eventually comes into trauma and sits down next to me and says, we have to have a conversation. And pretty much outlined the severity of this fairly unique injury. Doesn't really happen in the ski world that often, if at all, like a motorcycle kind of accident. And that was sort of when I had to kind of deal with the realizations that I had pretty much like lost all of the ability to use my left arm at that point. There were a couple of surgical options, a couple of different strategies, but to have lost all 5 nerve roots of the plexus right at the spinal column, it's pretty much impossible to repair with modern surgical techniques and technology. So that was where things shifted, and I spent about a month and a half in the hospital at that point, dealing with the other blunt trauma injuries and deciding what paths to take as we looked at how I wanted to try and live life again and what things were important to me. And just fortunate that my friends and family were able to help me navigate that pretty beefy time.
It took a while, I'm sure, to like come to grips with everything, but like, when did you start setting your sights on the Paralympics, right? Like, I mean, when did you start to realize, hey, there is another route to competing?
I knew that getting back to activity was going to be pretty crucial. Living in Salt Lake City, people are pretty active. A lot of the people that are living in city proper are outdoorsmen, recreationists. At the very least, they're using the trails and hiking. So I was fortunate enough that my surgeon and some of the other doctors involved understood both my background and that getting me back to activity in some capacity was going to be pretty crucial to my physical and mental health. I knew that I would be getting back to hiking, or I'd be getting back to ambulatory stuff at the very least. But a lot of the decisions that I made in the hospital were, how do I get back on a bike? How do I, to some degree, have some freedom and capacity to ski? But I had, after finishing racing at the end of my undergrad career, outside of beer league and having fun with friends after graduating, I had retired and I had stepped away from it, out from an athlete role. I love coaching. I love the sport. I think ski racing is this extremely unique experience that I try to provide to as many people as I can, and people that are willing to learn, and try to share the mountains with people of all ages. And knew that I would still be engaged with the mountains in some capacity, but competition wasn't something that I had immediately thought about, and it was actually something that I was a little bit resistant to at first. At the end of the day, skiing is inherently carries risk with it. Ski racing carries inherently more risk with it. And I think as soon as you enter into this trauma space of disability, your risk assessment does fundamentally shift in some capacity. So I, had been told about paraskiing as being something that was on the table. I had people that asked if I was interested in engaging with that world or pursuing para alpine, but I also had no idea what the pipeline looked like. So I would say about 2.5 years after injury was when that pipeline sort of actually revealed itself. I was up in Park City at the National Ability Center, which is this amazing nonprofit that serves people from all over the country, but then is based in Park City, Utah. And I was working with them to engineer the solution that would get me back on a bike, whether that be to commute or just for exercise, something where I would be moving at speed a little bit and get the wind in my face. And it was at that point in time where Colt, the gentleman that was helping me kind of problem solve getting back on two wheels, introduced me to my good friend Eric Lerfalum, who was the high performance para alpine coach for the National Ability Center at the time. And that's when, with my background, I was able to kind of do some more research and realize that there were sort of two programs in the country that were sort of the fast tracks to the national team in this space. The other being in Winter Park, Colorado, the National Sports Center for the Disabled. And I was put in touch with Eric. We had a meeting and a beer, and he invited me to a camp to see if it was still fun. I think one of the big things is that at the end of the day, we participate in sports because there is some level of enjoyment factor. Whether you're making a bunch of money or not, there's some sort of passion for movement and being outside in a lot of capacities. And I decided that as kind of COVID hit the world, that this was an opportunity for me to, pursue both movement and the outdoors. And one camp, giant slalom, was still extremely, extremely fun. And I was able to then have a meeting with Eric and sort of talk about what it would look like and what were the opportunities in front of me with not only my background, but my skill set and how I'd rebuilt myself and what all of this could look like moving forward. And that's sort of how it all started. The bug was still there. The itch was still there. It's a sport that's hard to let go, and even harder to enter back into after having let it go. And then at the same time, weighing all the risks associated with skiing at speed, with a body that at that point in time I felt, fairly compromised in regards to how I used to move and used to operate.
Yeah, so how are you? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how are you able to ski? I mean, with that shoulder situation, I mean, has the shoulder recovered at all to a point where you can use it, or is it kind of using one part of your body?
Yeah, so the classification for my world is an LW681, which basically includes injuries like mine and like really high upper limb amputations or congenital sort of development issues where someone might not have, much beyond a shoulder or lack of control of their shoulder. So I'm, during competition, forced to only use one pole on my good side. And then in regards to like my own biomechanics and stuff, I recovered as much as I could. I had a bunch of nerve transfers where they rewired me to kind of try to reactivate certain muscles. Most of those things worked, but more in the capacity of using a bike than anything. My hand really still doesn't work. My bicep doesn't really work. It's enough to kind of flicker, and I've got sensation down most of my arm, but not mobility. My tricep works fully against gravity, which is really beneficial for being up on a bike. And then I had made the decision about 3 or 4 months after injury to get my shoulder fused. And that gives me the ability to kind of use my scapula to sort of move my arm in a pretty small degree range of motion, but enough to kind of control my arm in some capacities. So I ski with a sort of rigid arm brace that kind of keeps me in a bent athletic ski position. And then my shoulder has some limited mobility and use that lets me sort of stay in that pocket for skiing. There's some sort of imbalance issues that I have to navigate and sort of where my torso is in space a little bit. Otherwise, I'm sort of skiing with a single pole, and just trying to get as symmetrical as I possibly can with my movements, and sort of going through the learning process again of, how do I make the ski movements that I used to and that I know how to do with the slight alterations in my upper torso, and then without the use of my arm and being able to, extend it and get it away from my body balance wise. And that's sort of the main ticket. There's another gentleman from Japan who has a very, very similar story as me, but has some muscles that do work more than others. And he will sort of tether his arm to his body with an elastic band so that, he's able to use what muscles he has, but his arm doesn't run away from him. And then we have another guy from Japan or from China who, is a full humeral amputation and doesn't have an arm at all the way up to the socket. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much all the gentlemen that are in my category, and then there's some women on the other side as well.
Gotcha. And then, skiing with one pole, what was the process of learning how to do that? Like, what was the biggest challenge with one pole instead of two?
One of the biggest things is really using your poles to navigate the mountain, just push around and skate. And, that definitely creates an imbalance on one side versus the other. So there's adaptations in terms of, my skiing symmetry that I really have to work on. There's issues with getting out of the start gate. There are components of skiing at speed, components of just one movement that's pretty crucial to the biomechanics with a pole plant being existent on one side and not on the other side. But all those things are sort of taken into account when we start to bring up what's called our factor system, which is kind of like golf handicap, if you will. And it's sort of how they calculate out what your factored time is against your raw time in a race so that they can slot athletes in or allow a race result to build out in regards to para alpine races and make things fair so that we're all operating on our highest level, and all those impairments are kind of taken into account as we're tackling the same course.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of that, tell me a little bit about the first para alpine race you competed in. I'm sure you remember it well. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, so it was Winter Park, Colorado. Race is hosted by the National Sports Center for the Disabled, and it was kind of surreal pushing back at the start gate. Things were different. I, was piecing equipment together by myself, trying to figure out what worked, what didn't, and really just being a new person in a community that resembled the community that I grew up with, but filled with characters from all different walks of life, people that grew up skiing, people that didn't, people that were just being introduced to the sport of alpine racing, sit skiers, amputees, people with stories just as crazy, if not crazier than mine. It was sort of a homecoming to the experience of skiing at speed and pushing on edges that, I love so much. And that was sort of what ended up solidifying this journey for me was the community and finding people that could understand and intentionally engage with my personal narrative and the challenges that I had gone through, and being able to have that common thread of, pursuing skiing fast. And I think at the end of the day, I've actually been thinking a lot about this since getting to Milan and getting to Cortina, that I'm just very fortunate that in the parasport world that alpine skiing exists. There's no real right or wrong way to get down a mountain. I think we see that whenever we go to a ski area, whether it just be outfits or the equipment chosen. And so alpine skiing actually, for how, there is this top tier way to do things is actually an extremely malleable sport. And that's sort of what I really started to fall in love with was the community and the fact that this sport that I grew up loving so much actually ends up being so malleable that it's extremely inclusive and opens up all these different ways to engage with engineering, getting people moving, to getting people that move extremely slow or if not at all without support up to extremely high speeds that a lot of people don't really experience outside of their cars, and was sort of a complete new lifeblood for the sport for me. It totally opened up the doors of what is sport? What does sport provide to the human experience? What does sport provide to the soul? And for that to all be catalyzed and brought into my experience by, again, the sport that I grew up in, falling in love with at such a young age, there was no real way to kind of turn away from that in particular.
Now to today, where you're the Paralympian here for Team USA. Now, it looks like they make the official announcement pretty close to the games. I mean, the games, I think the opening ceremony is tomorrow. So when did you was it only a few weeks or days ago that you actually found out you would be making the trip to Italy?
It wasn't just a few days ago. Okay. That was sort of the official announcement out towards the public.
Yeah.
We were informed of our team status, 3 or 4 weeks ago before a pre-games camp in Sun Valley, Idaho, and where we went for sort of full prep and staging and to start the process of, everyone getting to know staff. The national team itself is made up of 12 athletes, the U.S. Ski team's para-alpine group. And then we will, as Team USA, sort of bring on another about 10 athletes from there. We have 5 start positions in each event for each category. So there's visually impaired standing and sitting athletes in both genders for each event. So the team actually can swell quite a bit from there. In terms of Paralympic criteria, we've had access to that criteria since October, November. So we've been able to track with sort of personal spreadsheets and result lists, kind of where you stand. And I've sort of been prepared since, December, January, and sort of where things started off on the year. And then have been in Europe racing World Cups for the most part, sort of chasing criteria opportunities. And then we were given the official kind of call from the director and coaching staff en route to getting ready for that Sun Valley camp. But the national team athletes with the U.S. ski team being only 12, you're sort of sitting at the, upper tier of the criteria list to begin with. So it's been sort of a push myself on World Cup, continue to try to show up to Italy as the best version of myself, and then support the athletes that are kind of chasing down those positions domestically. And then, the official sort of media announcement was sort of held off so that it wasn't overlapping with the Olympic Games too much, and that we were able to, have a little bit of freedom for our populace to have that announcement outside of all of the media going on with Cortina. And there were a couple of spots on the team that kind of came down to sort of the last minute and the last bubble, and sort of give those athletes the opportunity to have things solidified before they, start announcing the team. But at the end of the day, they're the only athletes that were completely confirmed before that announcement was made. Before we got the call from our directors, were a couple of athletes that had podiumed on World Cup this year. Otherwise, we were falling into, the second, third, and fourth tier of our criteria operations as we filter in sort of people stand within each discipline.
So you kind of had a decent idea based on where you were in the rankings and stuff, but what was that call like? I mean, was it pretty emotional to get that actual call?
It was emotional after the call. The call itself came from my head coach, and there was definitely, excitement and definitely like some rah-rah and some sort of virtual fist bumping going on. And then I had to get in the car to drive for 4.5 hours up to Sun Valley. So it was more during that ride and calling mom and dad and calling some of my close friends to let them know that things had been sort of finally had finally been put in stone. That's where stuff sort of started to hit me. A part of the story that we haven't talked about yet is I was sort of in the running and slated to go to Beijing back in 2022. And I was participating at World Championships that had been pushed a year because of COVID. And I was competing up in Lillehammer in Norway and crashed skiing the downhill and broke my ankle. And I lost my opportunity to go to Beijing about 4 weeks out from those games. So this, 6-7 year journey that should have had an Olympic start or a Paralympic start much earlier on became a much longer pursuit. So it's been, I spent, time rehabbing that, getting back on skis, competing for a year, and then I ended up getting open cervical spine surgery in 2023. One of the complications of my injury, it's very common with brachial plexus injuries, is complex neuropathy. So I used to deal with nerve pain that I wouldn't really wish on my worst enemies on a day in and day out basis. I didn't sleep for 5, almost 6 years that much. It was sort of a pretty big detriment to my physical and my mental health. And I had done everything I could for pharmaceutically and some other sort of options to try to resolve that pain without going down a route that was invasive and carried a lot of risk with it. Ski racing, again, sport, exercise did sort of help, and being in gates would give me, a minute and a half of relief at a time. But that pain that I experienced was also a bit of a limiting factor in this athletic pursuit. So I made the decision to pursue this open spine surgery to try and resolve this some capacity, and to also, give my mental health the opportunity to actually maybe hold on and survive, and to stop deteriorating. And fortunately enough, came out of a 10-ish hour surgery with quite a bit of, if not, the majority of my pain resolved. That was sort of the catalyst of, all right, let's see how hard I can now push myself in the gym. How much can I recover now that I might be able to sleep? Working on sleep hygiene, getting back to, all of the things that I've learned growing up as an athlete, being a student athlete, pushing through undergrad in that world, all of those skill sets, being able to then see if I can bring that all back to the table instead of just kind of holding on for what little bit of life that I could grasp at a time. And that was sort of when the fuse got lit, where, all right, Cortina's now really on the table. How do I pursue, skiing at the highest level that I'm capable of? How do I make it onto the national team? And at that point in time, we were still under the USOPC, the U.S. Olympic Paralympic Committee, but the U.S. ski team had conversations work to bring the Paralpine team back under its umbrella after a bit of a hiatus. So all of this sort of started to come together where, I had my pain resolved, I was skiing fast, my fitness was coming up, and now how do I make the U.S. ski team and put myself in the best position to have, a couple of seasons of World Cup experience before hitting the world stage of the games. And it was sort of me systematically using my resources at the National Ability Center and my own experience and all my own knowledge, and pushing pretty hard from that surgery in 2023 up until now, and making full-time team status last year after having quite a bit of support from the team the year before, but not being fully named, and being able to race against the highest level athletes in the field for 2 full seasons before showing up at the games, instead of showing up at the games blind with fairly minimal access to that level of competition.
So officially last year is when you officially made the U.S. ski team, which you said is 12 people?
Yep, 12 athletes.
Okay.
We've got 8 men and 4 women. And the year before that, I was a programmed athlete, so I was traveling with the team. But I had certain components of the experience that I was responsible for funding-wise. I was tuning my own skis in different capacities. The year before that was a little bit similar. I had some invites to opportunities as I was skiing fast domestically. And then this year's been my first full year traveling with the whole group and the people that I've been competing with for a while. That injury back in 2022 kind of sort of stirred that up a little bit. And there were definitely questions after losing Beijing if I was going to pursue this. And the stubbornness that kind of got me through the hospital and through the injury wouldn't let me sort of give up. And with the transition back into the ski team and the staff that were hired, and their belief in me, the opportunity to really, push this and see this as a lifestyle and a really, invaluable opportunity for me, kind of kept me going and kept me pushing.
How's Italy? Like, what's the experience been like so far? Getting traveling there and getting ready for the Olympics.
It's been absolutely amazing. I've had the opportunity to be in different areas in Italy over the past couple of years now, but I haven't been to Cortina before. So it is absolutely immaculate scenery. The food is Italian perfection. We flew into Venice and had the opportunity to explore Venice for an evening. So it's been a really, really wild experience and sort of another reason to fall in love with this country. But I have been completely blown away by the scenery in particular here compared to some of the other venues that I've been to across Italy. And it sort of speaks for itself as to why they chose this as one of the sort of host venues for all of the Milano Cortina and all of the Milan competition venues. And they've been extremely welcoming, extremely excited to have us, and it just makes getting up to the start gate every day that much more enjoyable, and having the Dolomites, staring at you in your face the entire time.
And then the events, it looks like March 7th, you got downhill, March 9th, Super G, March 10th, Combine, March 13th, Giant Slalom, and then March 15th, Slalom. I assume you'll be competing in all those events, or correct me if I'm wrong, I guess.
You're totally right. So I'm one of the athletes on the team that'll be skiing. I have start rights in all of the events. And right now I'm planning on skiing everything and trying to take the opportunity as much as possible. I think, our world, Paralpine world, there are a lot of athletes that will ski multiple events and not just necessarily be specialists. And growing up in the sport, the opportunity to kind of be an all-around skier and not just a specialist has always been something that's attractive to me. So I can't say that will necessarily be the case for, if I pursue Courchevel in 2020 or in 2030, or push for Salt Lake beyond that. But this being my first games, I'm gonna try and push out the start gauge event and have that bib, and try to enjoy sort of every moment that I have the opportunity to. The big thing will be recovery and eating food and taking care of the body through everything. I just finished our second downhill training day today, and am already kind of having to work on keeping the wheels on. So that's I think going to be the biggest challenge through the length of our stay here, is just staying on top of the recovery, staying on top of the mobility, staying on top of all of those things, and then making sure to get the calories in, and getting the rest and the sleep where we can. The village is awesome. It's super accessible. We've got all the countries here. The food is great. The beds are comfy. It's not some of the comical sort of stories that you might hear from Olympians or in the news or anything. It's extremely comfortable, and we're in a pretty amazingly beautiful canyon that they've been able to build out the village in, and it looks like a trailer park from the outside, but they've really done a really good job with all the rooms and making sure that we're super comfortable. We have all the modern amenities. We really haven't wanted for anything thus far other than colder temps. And so for the most part, it's been super awesome, and just trying to get into the swing of getting some level of socializing with the other athletes, while also taking care of the things that I can control and the things that I need to perform at the level that I'm trying to.
Great. Well, we're talking on Thursday, and so the opening ceremony is going to be tomorrow, March 6th, right? So are you participating in the opening ceremony? How excited are you for this? I mean, what's it going to be like, you think?
Yeah, it's tough. It's us and I think the border cross athletes. Unfortunately, the opening ceremonies are like a 2.5 hour, almost 3 hours away. So you saw during the games, sort of like satellite tapings of athletes walking in the different villages. It's really cool that the games here in Italy are so spread out, and they're able to either reuse all these different venues or the best venues. But the biggest thing is that for us with the downhill, pretty early in the morning, I mean, we're 5 a.m. wake ups. We for the most part won't be walking in the main ceremony, but we did do a taping, so there will be us being present in some capacity. But for the most part, we'll be maybe watching some of that here, and then kind of get into bed so that we can get up early for the downhill to open up the games. And it's a bummer to miss the opening ceremony, but also really cool that we have one of the first events to kind of kick things off.
It's the same courses as the Olympics. Paralympics are the same courses for skiing, or different?
Yeah, so we're skiing at the same venue that the women were skiing at.
Okay.
And our start will be a little bit lower from them, but otherwise we're on the same venue. We're skiing at the Tofana Alpine Center, and we push out of the Tofana Chutes and right against giant cliffs, full speed, pretty quick, and pretty exciting to get things going. And you'll see some amazing stuff from the visually impaired athletes that are being guided. We have a young pair, brother and sister combo, that'll be competing, really sort of showing you what's capable, again, with skiing being this malleable opportunity. The standing athletes, which are sort of a plethora of different shapes and sizes, and then our sitting athletes, which is pretty close to watching like MotoGP happen on snow. And it should be pretty awesome spectating. I think our para sports are some of the coolest spectating events to watch. And I know everyone's excited to put their best effort out there so that the world has the opportunity to see again all the different ways that you're able to ski at sort of the highest levels.
And is it 2 runs for each event? My only comparison is college skiing, so I apologize for this,
No,
in terms of like
no,
how
you're good. So
yeah.
NCAA skiing is primarily giant slalom and slalom,
Yeah.
so that'll be the technical events. 2 runs, they'll shift the course, and then it's the combined time. The speed events are 1 run.
Oh, okay.
So downhill will require, at least 1 training run, but 2 or 3 training runs typically. And then race day you show up and you get your crack at it. The Super G will be a new set. Everyone gets 1 chance to look at it during inspection, and then 1 crack at it, full gun show. That's my favorite event. And then the combined will be two runs, but separate disciplines. So we'll have a run of Super G, and then we'll go change out all of our equipment and go up and inspect and have a run of slalom. It'll be the combined time of those 2 separate discipline runs. And that will be the race there. And then we'll get some time off to prep for the GS, and that'll be the typical technical events. So 2 runs, 2 separate course sets, combined time for the podium.
Gotcha. And then for the combine, are you teaming up with another skier? How does that work?
No, we won't be
No.
teaming up with another skier. That'll be an individual event.
Got it.
We're trying to kind of get that introduced into our world moving forward. It's, I think, a really cool spectator event. So it would be, really cool for us to be able to pair up with athletes from different disciplines, since we don't race against each other for the medals, but in terms of results and fist points, we do race against each other. So mathematically and how we calculate things, it would be totally doable. I think it would be really cool for us to, have a sit ski downhiller or a sit ski Super G skier and a standing athlete tech skier, or vice versa, depending on, who's fast. And I think it's something that has been in the conversation a little bit since watching that at the games and watching that at World Champs last year as just a really cool spectator event for the sport of alpine.
Absolutely. Well, Tyler, anything else you wanted to share about this experience, this journey you've been on? Anything else you wanted to mention we haven't got to talk about yet?
I think it's just a really cool opportunity for me to, thank you guys for reaching out and thank all the Bateses and the Bobcats that have reached out to me since seeing the announcement and pushing that out. It's been really awesome to have professors reach out, old teammates, people that I just hung out with in Commons, and sort of all the support I've seen on that end. And just, my years at Bates on the team were an extremely important part of everything that has gotten me here. And it's just really cool to have the support from the community and the NCAA community, and my opportunity to sort of introduce Lewiston to para sports. I think it's not just the winter games, it's the summer games as well. And whether it be congenital or trauma, para sports offer this extremely cool opportunity for people to express themselves through movement and competition. I think Bates is a pretty unique community with the massive percentage of students that are also athletes in some capacity. And so sports plays a huge role in, how people navigate and experience campus to begin with. So for me to have the opportunity to be an ambassador for para sports in general is really, really cool. And I hope that this gives people the opportunity to explore what is going on in para sports, whether it again be winter or summer games. We have a number of athletes that are track and field athletes that compete on the NCAA stage that compete in the Paralympics. We have a number of different athletes that compete in water sports in the NCAA world, or train alongside NCAA teams that compete in the Paralympics. And at the end of the day, everyone's just trying to express themselves through movement and competition, and to be the first Paralympian in Bates history, I think it's, my duty to be able to, show that that's really, at the end of the day, why we compete and why we play. And, the opportunity to sort of bring people into this world and see that, if you might not look the same as another person or operate the same as another person, but that doesn't mean that you can't have passion for movement and competition. And I think that, there are a lot of individuals in the Bates community that have either experienced trauma or have family members that might have, limb difference or intellectual difference or some sort of disability or adaptation that they navigate the world. And to be able to be an ambassador to highlight that is simply a part of the human experience, and that there is that at the end of the day, we can celebrate people pursuing the best version of themselves and pursuing, the most output and the most exciting output that they can provide to their spaces. I'm pretty passionate about that and pretty excited to have the opportunity to bring that to the Bates community.
Awesome. Tyler McKenzie, congratulations again, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. I really appreciate it, Aaron, and thank you for the time and the questions. It's an awesome opportunity to not only represent my country, my family, but the Bates community as well here in Milan.
Home games this week feature the men's tennis team hosting Middlebury Saturday at noon and Williams Sunday at 11 a.m. Women's lacrosse also has a pair of home games, with Amherst coming to town Saturday for a noon start and UMass Dartmouth here Sunday at noon. Meanwhile, the baseball team is scheduled to host Plymouth State Saturday at, noon in a doubleheader. And of course, the biggest games of the week are happening in Scranton, Pennsylvania, as the Bobcats take on the number 2 nationally ranked Royals Friday at 7 p.m. in the Sweet 16, with the winner playing the next night in the Elite 8. We'll recap it all next time on the Bates Bobcast.